Hey everyone, welcome to Spiritual Journey. My name's Colleen Jorgensen, and we are going to talk about the Mercury retrograde that is about to begin on November 26th. And it's important, this Mercury retrograde, as it's a prelude to the Mars retrograde that's coming up on December 7th. So this is a really important transit, especially as it overlaps some of the activity that is happening in the early part of November with the Mars opposition to Pluto, the United States election. And so this Mercury retrograde is going to be important for some highlights about the information that is transpiring and moving through. So everybody's pretty excited about the United States election on the 5th of November. And it's interesting because they're so close in the polls, which can really hamper the voting, the counting, all of that, which is gonna start to infiltrate with this Mercury retrograde. So before we jump to the Mercury retrograde and that event that's about to happen, we have to recognize that Mercury enters what is known as its shadow on the 7th of November. Now, that is a degree at which Mercury will back up to that point and won't go beyond that point, and then it'll begin to move forward. So there's a couple things happening here. One of them is Mercury is very close to the Earth, and so is Mars. So those two in and of themselves are really ramping up the energy that's transversing this period of time. I called November the awakening of the dragon. We are in the dragon year, and I really kind of feel like this is the moment of a lot of things that are going to begin to transpire. So on November 7th, just after a couple days after the election on the 5th of November, we have this energy that begins to manifest as Mercury begins to slow down. Now, Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius, and he's detriment here. So there could be some detrimental information that's being unearthed. It's also an energy which indicates there's undisciplined rhetoric. It's meandering. People can't keep sentences together. It's a little overwhelming in the information, and some of it isn't rational. So this can begin the process of some of the delays that are most likely going to happen. So Mercury rules ballots, voting, ballot boxes, decisions, information, sorting through and prioritizing this information, which is really going to be a challenge here with Mercury and Sagittarius. So Mars, now I just want to talk a little bit about Mars, because at the same period of time, Mercury is actually trining Mars, and that's a really positive, easy flowing aspect. And Mercury is also sextile to Pluto. So this is important because Pluto's about to jump from Capricorn to Aquarius on the 19th of November permanently. And Mars is activating the action of this movement. It is initiating the activity that Pluto wants to see happen as he transverses Aquarius. So this trine is very promising in many ways. At least we are being told that whatever action is being taken here is positive. It is in the best interest of us all. And it's almost like Mercury in Scorpio is saying to Mars, it's okay for you to take action. It's okay if you want to defend the homeland. It's okay to take military action at all costs. And because Mercury at this stage in early November is in Scorpio, this could be kind of like some secretive information that is only funneling through the higher ups because Pluto's in Capricorn. So this is consent. And it is positive affirmation that there is opportunities here by this military action. And who is benefiting? Well, the powers that be at this moment. So Mars in Cancer is that really defensive patriotism and the need to defend the homeland. So we can get a lot of activity here with housing development, the building of houses, property, real estate, those types of things. But this is really setting in motion an intense military activity, and or promises are being about to be made here. So Mars moves to Leo just prior to the election on November 4th. He is still trying to Mercury, who is now at 2 degrees of Sagittarius. And now Mercury's detriment, decisions that are made now could actually be flowing forward that, yes, continue whatever action you've taken, but these actions now are most likely going to be detrimental in some capacity. So Mars is really approaching at this point his first opposition to Pluto. And that's really going to say a lot because this is really treacherous energy that's happening around this time because Mars is going to oppose Pluto for the first time around this juncture. So this is a sort of a critical moment of decisions that are being made and the actions taken that can actually be detrimental to anyone who's coming into power, anyone who is already in a position of leadership, could actually see things unfolding that are really treacherous, dangerous. And at 29 degrees, we have this anaretic degree that is really chaotic. Like, just go ahead and get it done with. Let's finish it off. And it really sort of flips the tides here in some way. So we have this opposition happening on the 3rd. On the 4th, we have Mars moving into the sign of Leo, and Mars likes Leo here. It really gives a stand-up energy for anybody who's taking the stage, very dynamic energy for some of those leaders who are emerging. So Mercury really remains positive in the connection with these two until he backs away on the 17th of November. And it's on the 17th of November that Mercury is going to make his first opposition to Jupiter. Now, an opposition is like a tug of war. It's 180 degrees apart, and each party or each energy is pulling against the other. So this energy with Mercury and Jupiter is a very dynamic energy in and of itself. It makes promises it can't keep. It is lots of talking. It's a very opinionated. Conspiracy theories begin to emerge here. There's a lot of daydreaming. There's a lot of debates and polarization happening between the information and what is being said. There's a lot of rhetoric, propaganda. There's religious arguments, a lot illogical belief systems. It's really unreliable because there's such a lack of practicality here. There's too much information on board, which makes us flustered, overwhelmed, and so we lack some sort of stability here. And we can't really defend ourselves if we don't have all the information. So it's really quite stressful that somebody could be accusing somebody of something, but they really don't have the facts to back it up in a court of law. And so secrets start to emerge. There's a lot of like dumping of information. And this probably isn't the best time for all of this to happen, as it's only a couple days after the election. So this is a very opinionated, filled with lots of propaganda, allegations that can't be substantiated. There could be threats of going to the courts or the legal system because Sagittarius is there and Jupiter is there. And there's like a lot of chaos, I guess. Now, Sagittarius is a sign that is generally pretty optimistic. And so even though Mercury is detriment here in this position, there's a lot of excitability, there's a lot of exaggerations, there's a lot of gossip going on here, there's a lot of boasting, extremism, we did it, we're gonna forge ahead. And there's just not enough stuff to actually make it believable. So Sagittarius and Mercury's retrograde. So we always have this internal dialogue that's going on with the Mercury retrograde, that our minds are actually going faster than our dialogue is. So we don't have a lot of patience to listen to people, and we're jumping ahead of the conversation and we're making assumptions. Just, I know what she's talking about. Okay, shut up. I'm done. So it's important that you listen here with this highly charged Mercury retrograde. So we could have problems in the judicial system here, in the courts, in judges. New laws could be in the process of review. Legal or lawyers' issues are being scrutinized, and the action perhaps that they're taking, or any case that is before the courts. So if you do have court issues right now, this is a really good time to review, make sure that you have all the facts in a very chronological order so you can actually present it. But now when you present it to the lawyer, the legal team, now they could get all bottled up. So you got to really keep an eye on that. Your lawyer is not necessarily the responsible one if these are your issues. There's going to be issues with immigrations, policies, visas, passports. So make sure that if you are making application for any of these, that they are well in hand. University enrollments, foreign student applications, and the educational system. Issues surrounding travel, so foreign travel specifically. So if you're planning on making a foreign trip, You could expect delays. Make sure you got your passport and visas or whatever you need. There's going to be a lot of focus on publication, the media, newspapers, reporters, social media. There could be some hacking going on here, or the leaking of information that comes out. So if you don't want your secrets told, you better just not say anything. However, we can hardly help ourselves with this energy. We can hardly wait to tell somebody the news. So there's also could be a breakdown in peace talks, negotiations, agreements could fall apart. And there's really a lot of issues with diplomatic relations and relationships. In addition, shipping, tariffs, the transfer of goods and services, because Mercury is the merchant. So we could have some issues there, especially related to foreign goods and services coming into the country. So that's kind of a big deal with this. And so it makes it kind of interesting as to who is going to claim that they are the rightful winner of the presidential election as we emerge into the latter part of the election and Mercury goes retrograde. So this could be a long haul with review of the ballots and certain information that is unfolding with those with that electorate. So yeah, it's a pretty wild kind of energy. Even before Mercury goes retrograde, he is connecting to the North Node when he's trining Mars. So this is a push forward into the future and seems pretty optimistic for the motives of the direction of the world, I guess. The sun and Mercury are going to come together here. And just prior, like I said, before all of this takes place, when Mercury does station retrograde, the sun comes to 14 degrees of Scorpio, which is ruled by Pluto on the 3rd, which is in opposition to Mars. That tells me that this is really dangerous to leaders and possible violence because there's a square to Chiron, which could be sickness, some sort of illness happening. And Eris is close by there, which means exclusion or pushed out of something. So right away, Mars jumps in to Leo, which would indicate, the potential of a new leader coming on board. But because of the Mars retrograde, there could be a stall. Now, this Mercury opposition to Jupiter is somewhat beneficial because of the leaking of information or secrets coming out, because there's a mutual reception between Jupiter and Mercury. So Jupiter can kind of merge into Sagittarius, and Mercury can take hold of the information in Gemini. So there's a shared direction or a shared motive with this opposition. And so that could all play out as seemingly like things are beneficial, that proposals are made, that maybe bribing is a part of this equation, that I'll rub your back if you rub my back kind of mutual reception. And so that could really play into what is happening until we get to this point when Pluto moves into Aquarius and the whole dynamic begins to shift. as now Uranus takes hold of Pluto and Saturn takes hold of Pluto, and they are now the governing bodies over which Pluto is now governed. So there's a big transition that is taking place here. Mars, like I said, all through this whole period as we approach this 26th of November, Mars is moving closer to Earth, Mercury is moving closer to Earth, and then Mercury is also like moving closer to the sun. And so this really is somewhat treacherous territory that we're in, that we could have a lot of grandstanding going on here and people up on their soapboxes proclaiming their opinions. So on November 26th, at 22 degrees of Sagittarius, Mercury is going to station. It's quite an excitable energy, as I was saying. And then all of a sudden, now hold on a minute, we have to see if we're actually going in the right direction from all these things that we've been doing at the end of October, October 26th onward. Somebody who's going to call us to task. And Mercury retrogrades, of course, can be difficult. But in this case, it's more about what you're saying. We could have problems with vehicles, transportation, public transit, because of this dynamic and these movable signs, because Sagittarius and Gemini are movable, flexible signs. So if you say it, you got to do it. In this case, you can't leave it to chance. Don't delay. Don't delay at all, or it could be detrimental to you. So December 4th is your first opposition between Mercury and Jupiter. December 16th is when Mercury is going to station direct. And then we have the final Mercury opposed to Jupiter on the 26th of December, which is Boxing Day in Canada. So this is quite a haul. We have a lot going on here, and we have to pay attention. Do be cautious on the roads. Don't get mixed up and muddled in the information that you're expressing outward, because you can be called on that, and you could be challenged to produce the facts. Where did you get the information from? And there could be some slander here, slanderous rhetoric that begins to emerge, and you got to be cautious about that because you don't want to end up in court. So there's a lot happening, and do be cautious on the roads with this as well. Make sure you got your winter tires on and your vehicle is ready for those potential bad roads in Canada, or stormy weather, rainy stuff that's happening. It's December 6th that Mercury joins up with the sun, and we have this Kazami energy that really is a point where the dialogue could change, and shifting perspectives could happen. New revelations begin to unfold. Back in the day, this used to be the messenger coming back to the king to divulge whatever information he had gathered from the enemy or the kingdom, or what the king wanted to receive. So that's this Mercury retrograde. Be cautious, and I will chat with you soon about the Mars retrograde, which is set to arrive in December as well. So there's kind of this overlapping energy that is merging here. So take care out there. I'll chat with you soon. Bye-bye.